Big crypto news breaking right now. Members of Congress urge SEC Chair Gensler to approve spot Bitcoin ETFs, just like you and I have been doing. Come on, Gary. Let's go. Following a recent Court of Appeals decision, they argue the current SEC stance is inconsistent and discriminatory, highlighting the need for investor protection. I would say highlighting the very fact that SEC is doing everything but protecting investors, namely harming investors. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with that. And let's really set the tone for what we're about to talk about in this video. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, and let's do it. Grayscale urges U.S. SEC to approve spot Bitcoin ETF following court victory. This is very important. This is a headline from earlier this month, but it plays into exactly what is breaking right now in the letter that was just written to the SEC. So I don't know if you remember or not, but a 3-judge panel of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals in Washington last week ruled that the SEC was wrong to reject Grayscale's proposed Bitcoin ETF without explaining its reasoning in a case that has been closely watched by the industry and which briefly boosted the price of Bitcoin nearly 7%. This is important because this is really alluded to in the letter. So Mike Alford over here on Twitter just tweeted. He said SEC Chair Gensler is scheduled to appear before the House Financial Services Committee tomorrow. A bipartisan group of 4 committee members, 2 from each party, sent Gary a sternly worded letter today urging him to approve spot Bitcoin ETFs from BlackRock, Fidelity, and Grayscale ASAP. We're about to look at the letter. The pressure is building, and tomorrow could be an important inflection point. And this is it. There's one person waiting. I think it's me because I'm on this page right now. But U.S. House Committee on Financial Services oversight of the Securities and Exchange Commission tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm on here. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. But Gary going to be grilled. And as Mike says, the pressure is building. And tomorrow could be an important inflection point. 2 things. If you've been watching Gary recently in maybe a hearing or an interview, he looks like he's under pressure because he is. He's under pressure from an entire industry, that is to say crypto. But the other thing is SEC has been taking some losses. And I've said time and time again, I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't think the law is on the SEC's side, right? So that's why we've seen them take some losses. That's why we see skepticism in the courts from someone like Judge Fila in the Coinbase case. But the pressure is building. And tomorrow could be an inflection point, as Mike says. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. But as he said, 2 from each party, the bipartisan group, sent Gary a letter. And this is what the letter looks like. Eleanor over here on X posted it, a bipartisan letter. We write to ensure the SEC does not continue to discriminate against spot Bitcoin exchange-traded products. I want to just actually pose this question to you. I read this and I'm like, come on, let's go. Even as Mike said, maybe it's an inflection point, and we want to see progress. We want to see something break, something happen. But there is also the piece of me that's like, it's the same thing every time. He's going to give all these non-answers. Nothing's going to happen tomorrow. Nothing's going to change with so many things, not even just crypto, but coming out of this administration and what's going on right now in this country. It just seems like nothing happens, right? That really does seem to be the case a lot of times. But I continue to remain optimistic that something is going to happen eventually. And it's going to play out in the courts and in Congress. The SEC is responsible for making certain that products that comply with investor protection standards are made available to investors. And then this is where they talk about what we just looked at. This position was affirmed 3-0 by the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia in the Grayscale versus SEC. The circuit court upheld Grayscale's position that the SEC violated the Administrative Procedures Act when it denied Grayscale's application to convert Grayscale Bitcoin Trust to a spot Bitcoin ETP. So, and it's going to talk about this, but tell me how crazy. SEC approved the futures ETF. And there's all this drama and there's all of this stalling in terms of the spot ETF. It's crazy. The Court of Appeals held that Grayscale's proposed Bitcoin ETP is materially similar across relevant regulatory factors to the approved Bitcoin futures ETP. It further found the SEC's unexplained discounting of the obvious financial and mathematical relationships between spot and futures markets falls short of the standard for reasoned decision making. During your time at the SEC, you have consistently stated that digital asset firms should come in and register with the SEC. Market participants have relied on your statements and have filed applications for a regulated spot Bitcoin ETP. And we're going to look at right now, today, what's SEC doing? SEC pushes deadline for ARC21 share spot Bitcoin ETF to January. In a September 26th, today, notice the SEC said it would designate a longer period on whether to approve or disapprove of a proposed rule change that would allow ARC21 share spot BTC ETF on the CBOE BZX exchange. The commission's previous delay on August 11th gave the regulator until November 11th to decide whether to approve, disapprove, or again defer on a decision. Here we are with timeline. With the additional 60 days to consider ARC21 shares offering, the SEC's final deadline will be January 10th, 240 days after the application was filed in May 2023. May, we're already in September. Time is flying by. A shame that this one's getting pushed to January 10th now, 240 days later. But time is flying by, and we're going to be in January very soon, 2024. Look what they say. The commission finds that it is appropriate to designate a longer period within which to issue an order approving or disapproving, so that has sufficient time to consider the proposed rule change. It's crazy. They're stalling like crazy. And it's all part of their plan. It's all part of the battle, the stall, the wait, the non-answers that we're likely going to see tomorrow. It's all part of it. I just want to just interject something right now, and that's the Bitcoin chart. This is all playing out right now. There is that piece of me that does think that nothing ever happens, right? I get that feeling. And let me know in the comments below if you get that feeling too. But while there is that kind of cynicism, there's the other piece of me that sees where we are in the cycles. And there is the piece of me that really does think that the SEC is going to lose most of these battles, a lot of these battles. Can't say all of them, and it's going to happen within this range. And we're talking about right around the halving. We're talking about right when that next bull market is speculatively going to happen again, and historically has happened in times past, in cycles past. So all these things, while they're not pleasant to go through, the stories aren't very fun to track because it does seem like nothing's happening. But I really think when something does happen, and if it's positive for crypto, if crypto's getting all of these wins all of a sudden, maybe an ETF approval, spot ETF approval, maybe Coinbase SEC case getting dismissed, no matter what, it's happening at a very key time in the cycles of crypto. And that's something that I'm very much keeping my eyes on. And that's what I'll be tracking as we continue to track stories like this. Let me know your thoughts, everybody. What do you think about this new news? What do you think about the hearing tomorrow? What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to get some answers, or just the same old, same old? Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Hit that like button. Your support does mean a lot to me, especially in these bearish times when, let's face it, it's not that fun to cover crypto markets right now. So I'll see you all in the next video. I appreciate you. God bless.